Here we have the Rebel Transport expansion pack for the Star Wars miniatures game. In this video I will perform a detailed unboxing showing the full contents in close-up. And by that I mean close-up zooms in on both ships, seeing how the transport looks on the table in terms of scale with other ships, and a look at all the cards and tokens so that you can also read all of the text. Okay, let's see what's in the box. I've already cut the cellophane off just to make this a lot easier. And the box is obviously two parts. This front bottom part with the see-through sides is all the ships, and here we're going to have all the bags and all the plastic bags and all the cards, and some of these are very long. That's really interesting, as well as a standard size X-Wing base. Some more goodies in here, big bases, the buttons for dials, lots more paper. These look like rules, another large base, and pretty much it for that side. Let's get the ship side now. Okay, push the box out of the way for now. We'll do a full box spin at the very end just so you can see how the coloured box looks. Really good packaging again, so you've got this sort of double layer where you've got two very thin plastic layers, but the top gives it an absolute brilliant protection. So it's not just the cellophane that protects the ships and all the details, but also you've got the second armour layer. Okay, so this large transport ship I'm going to get out first, the X-Wing, although it's got a different paint job. I think the most exciting thing here is the transport itself. And let's get the plastic out of the way. And I'm immediately drawn to the underside. Let's just zoom in here. So this is rather incredible. What a pleasant surprise. So you really don't get to see this in the box, but underneath and almost behind all this protective shielding that the transport is giving are all these multicoloured pods. So there's a lot more detail under here than I was expecting. I'm pleasantly surprised. The engine detail at the back again underside is really nice, and there's some really nice details in. You can really see some sort of nice dark gunmetal grey going on under here. And again, really pleased how much detail I can see just going in into the underside here. It really does continue through. So let's just rotate this very slowly, and you can also see the kind of real texture going on here. So you've got real encompassing shield sides here. Obviously you can see just a couple of the plastic lugs here. So there's one here and one here. Moving my hand on the ship just so you can see that. So obviously these they're special for the actual stand of the ship, but I think that is really nice detail. Let's get back to those engines. Look at those lovely engines. There's some really nice pipe work there. That's pretty fantastic. Let's just look at the end of those engines. Let's just bring it up and around a little bit and try and get the camera to focus on the engine thrusters themselves. Okay, they're plain and black. I can see me putting some nice colour paint into there. So again, the kind of bluey white, that is that seems to be the kind of drive style for these ships. And yeah, get that looking a little bit like my Millennium Falcon does. So let's just get the full screen on the full ship, sorry, on the screen at once. So there we have the top of our transport, and certainly this is the plainest view side. So we're going to roll that very slowly. Now, as you can see down near the rear of the ship, you've actually got this kind of command console pilot area, bridge. So I'm going to just focus and zoom in on that so you can see this a little bit closer. Use my hand as a backdrop on this just so you can see it. So you've really got here a very small kind of area. And I'm going to just again go down the full length of the ship to the front, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. So nice bit of scorching, darkness, vents, some of these. It's a really nice simple job, paint job, and like I said, all the surprise and all the detail that's hidden underneath. It's almost a pity that we're going to mostly be seeing it from this side, isn't it? So look at that under there, that's really fantastic. And absolutely this ship is all about bringing these cargo pods and what this transport can actually carry, not just the people on board, but also valuable cargo to assist with the Rebel actions and activities. Yeah, really pleased about that. So I'm going to get this on the stands. I'm then going to get the X-Wing out and we're going to... Okay, let's take a closer look at this Escort X-Wing that is included with the transport. It's got a slightly different variant paint scheme. So let's just zoom in a little bit, and then I'm going to put it in my hand and I'm going to quickly slide into shot. A standard X-Wing. Now, okay, it's a slightly lighter overall grey colour, but the main differences are actually on the nose of the ship here. So we've actually got a golden colour as well as a golden stripe. So I'm going to go right in now so you can just see that. As you can see, you've also got a red tipped astromech droid, and you've actually got a slight red banding on the front part of the engines that you just don't see any colour at all on the original standard X-Wing. So I think apart from that, the cockpit, everything else, it's a slightly lighter grey. You've got obviously this golden nose and the single stripe going down the middle and the red astromech droid, otherwise I'd say they're actually the same. I'm of course going to paint the rear ports of those engines, which are just black at the moment, and I think really in need of a bit of painting, so I just pop a little bit of colour in there to give them a little bit of an engine-y, orangey yellow glow, so I can really get these things moving, and I find that it makes them move faster, so certainly worth a little few minutes with a dab of paint and a few colours. I'm just going to spin the X-Wing on its side so you can just see and all of the details and all the different facings, even the underside, why not? So you can see that that yellowy gold nose really is properly painted. The stripe going down the front and the normal red stripes either side. It seems to be slightly brighter red than the X-Wings I've already got. Don't know whether that's intentional or not, but certainly this Escort X-Wing has got a slight and interestingly unique variation to its paint job. So there we go, nose on. I'm constantly impressed with the quality of the plastic figures and the paint jobs. Apart from the fact that I'm going to want to put some colour in those 4 black exhaust ports, I think it's a really good ship, and the line detail around the front of those engines there, we've got this very thin stripe just going around those 4 ports. I think that's been done really well, and certainly helps stand out from the regular crowd of X-Wings. Okay, so here it is all laid out, an awful lot of stuff in this box. So although the actual figure itself is quite a weighty figure, all the cardstock and cards and instructions etc. actually outweigh the weight of that large ship there. So I've put all the ships, quickly assembled them on their stands. So the X-Wing's a traditional 2-pole single small ship base. The huge ship that we have here is actually made out of 2 large bases that aren't actually linked together by anything other than the cardboard and the large pylon poles, so they're kind of like pylons that stick into the back and the front of the transport. So you've got 2 points of connection there with the ship. Obviously you've only got 1 transport card and there's no character there, so there's no particular pilot, and you've got a complete new kind of set of rules and stuff here that we'll go through in detail when we zoom in. So if you've just spotted the fact that you've got a different colour here and no weapon, you're absolutely right, there's a kind of new energy thing that we need to go through here. Not only do you get the rule sheets, you've also got a couple of sheets that you're going to want to photocopy on, because it sort of encourages you in some of the scenarios to ride on, kind of fleet mission setup guides. They're really nice watermarks, they're beautiful bits of paper, but I think I'm going to get a couple of these run through a colour photocopier so I can keep these in good nick. They're really for some of the scenarios. Again, the rulebook, fantastic, explains a lot about the ship. There's a lot of new tokens, really heavy cardstock, and including a new movement piece. Now I've already had a little play to see how that works. Makes sense, but we need to go through that. I think it's a special way of moving the ship. Again, all cardstock, really thick, fantastic quality as ever. A lot of special shaped, interesting dials and cards and tokens, as well as a load of standard ones that go with a lot of scenarios. So all in all, really a good deal for your money. And you know, you've got some really bespoke kind of crazy new things, some interesting looking tombstones. Again, all these come through the missions and scenarios. The main rule change is to do with having a huge ship on board, and I'll be honest, it could be seen as a bit of a ram ship as well. So although it's got no actual direct attack, can certainly bump into things. So let's go through the rules. We're going to zoom in bit by bit onto all the different types of cards so you can read all these things, especially the pilots and things of interest, and we're going to show the movement issues as well with this huge ship. Okay, let's start with the basic pilots. So you've got the Red Squadron pilot, 4 piloting skills costing 23 points, and the rookie, 2 piloting skills costing 21. Let's bring in a couple of the best new pilots that are in this game. So we've got here Wes Jansen, and we've got Porky. So yeah, Jack Porkins is in the set. So 8 piloting skills, 29 points, 7, 26. Let's have a quick read of what Wes is up to. After you perform an attack, you may remove 1 focus, evade or blue target lock token from the defender. So this is all about, I guess, not getting a kill straight away. So maybe a tough Imperial target, maybe the Lambda shuttle, something larger like the Slave, and it's allowing you to really weaken that ship's defensive abilities and its abilities to carry on attacking. So it's a really good one for taking down the bigger targets. Here's Jack Porkins. Porky, what does he do? He gets, when you receive a stress token, you may remove it and roll 1 attack dice. On a hit result, deal 1 face down damage card to this ship. I'm not so sure I'd use that feature a great deal. Sometimes though, you know that that stress is going to stop you doing the manoeuvre you need. So, you know, never say never. It's not the best special feature of a card I've ever read though, especially for such a famous pilot. Okay, hobby. Now I'm going to pronounce this right. Clivian? Never know. When you acquire or spend a target lock, you may remove 1 stress token from your ship. Much more useful. Again, not a bad pilot skill, 5, costing only 25 points, only 1 point less than Porkins. Tarn Misson, 3 pilot skill, 23 points. When an enemy ship declares you as the target of an attack, you may acquire a target lock on that ship. Could be quite useful as well. So only piloting skill of 3, but it's quite nice to get that extra target lock, and if it doesn't kill you, the TIE fighter flies by you, you've got a chance to get your revenge. There's also some interesting new astromech droids, so let's just quickly slide a couple of these guys out the way. There's 4 new mechs in total, quite interesting ones as well. R3A2, R4D6, R2D6 and an R5. So let's quickly just go through those. So you've got here, when you hit by an attack, then there are at least 3 uncancelled hit results. You may choose and cancel those results until there are 2 remaining. For each result cancelled in this way, receive 1 stress token. So he's going to be quite good for, I'd pop him on any ship like an X-Wing that you want to keep alive. So if you've got a lead ship, that's going to be a good one to keep you going. You've got R5P9 at the end of the combat phase. You may spend 1 of your focus tokens to recover 1 shield. That's also a good recovery one. R2D6, your upgrade bar gains the medal upgrade icon. You cannot equip this upgrade if you already have the medal icon and if your ship pilot skill is 2 or lower. Not so useful, but very cheap. It's only a 1. So I think this could be useful as a particular medal card that you really want to apply to a ship. And R through A2, when you declare the target of your attack, if the defender is inside your firing arc, you may receive 1 stress token to cause the defender to receive 1 stress token. So that's quite interesting. If you know you're going to do a simple move the next turn, and you know you're going to drop your stress token and your TIE fighter target, you really want to stop him doing his barrel rolls to get one of your fellow ships. I think that R3A2 could be a really quite interesting card to play on a good X-Wing. Pack also includes 3 additional new torpedoes that are called something a little bit French sounding, let's say, so flechette torpedoes. They're interesting, they're quite good damage with 3 there, and you've got to spend a target lock to use it, and you've got to be a little bit careful so that you don't get yourself stressed out depending on how strong your ship is and your hull. It's got a very interesting movement dial, and not only has it got limited options, it's also got the number of energy tokens that you get back. So i.e. it's of the 4 that it's got, what it doesn't expend in moving. So if you were to go forward 4, you expend all your energy tokens, you don't get any. If you go anything less than that, you get between 1 and 3. So that's just how the token works. Now then, we've got this special movement chit card here. Let's just see how it works. So the actual ship itself has this blue line down the middle, and that's important because all movements are actually done from there. So if the ship were to go forward, straight forward 1, you make sure that your card is angled so you've got a straight flush edge against your ship, and that blue line is going to move from there to there. Simple as that. Turning either a 1 or a 2 is a little more different. So let's just pop the ship back and let's just do the whole thing again. So this time we're going to turn the card over, because there's a little notch at the very end here, and what I need to do with that notch is I need to line it up with the corner. So what I'm actually doing, I'll do it on a piece that you can see. So there's an actual corner, as you can see, so you can get it angled onto a corner piece, and the corner we're actually doing on is this one underneath the card base. So it's a little bit hard to see, so I'm going to put my finger on the ship, make sure I don't move it. I've got it locked in place, and what I do now is I move the ship to either align against the 1 if I'm doing a 1 gentle turn, or a 2 slightly tighter turn. So keep an eye on where the blue ship started. I'm going to put a little energy token there. We're now going to move the ship all the way around there. So the blue point has actually only moved 1, even though I've moved the ship physically a large area on the board. It looks like it's moved a huge distance, but it really hasn't. And if it were to be a 2 move, then you'd be putting the ship there. So as you can see, the distance between the starting point and the end, it really is only a move of 2, and this really sorts out the angles and the direction turns. It's quite different. I've just slid it a little bit there. So it's quite a different manoeuvre than you're probably used to, and the orientation that you have this movement marker here all depends on whether you're going straight, in which case you want the straight side against the ship base, or whether you're turning a 1 or a 2, in which case you need this to L shape. You need it actually into the ship, so you can actually, when you lock that corner in, and there's only a wedge on one side, so they've thought about this, there's only a wedge on that one point there, so there's a straight edge on the other, so that you can actually perform the turn, so it's quite interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the actual medium transport card itself. So only a pilot skill of 3, 30-point cost. It's not as expensive as I think it should, really, because it's such a large ship. But there's a lot of negatives and difficulty to play this ship, so maybe that 30 points in play works out. One thing, no one's going to be able to fill this ship, this huge ship, in less, because it's got this epic icon, that lightsaber just there. That actually says basically that unless the game is defined as an epic play, or it's a cinematic play type scenario, in standard play you can't just suddenly equip this, so no rebel is going to just suddenly pop one of these on a table and surprise the Imperials. Okay, so let's just go down the card a little bit. So you can see here you've got this new symbol, and let's put one of the chips in place. You've now got this new energy type token and counter. So we'll bring the movement dial in as well. So it's I've not assembled the movement dial yet, but this way you can see all the movements. I think that's quite handy. As you can see, you've got not just the distance and the direction, but you've also got these little purple dots, and those purple dots absolutely equates to these energy tokens. So the ship itself has got 4 energy, it produces 4 energy. If it moves 4 forward, you don't get any energy out of the engines. If you only move 3, you're going to get 1, and you can do things with this energy. So you want to be able to accumulate some energy so that you can actually perform some of these special actions, which we're going to go through in a minute. So what are these new icons? So we've got the very first one on the left is, and it looks like a kind of a sphere, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see this. It's a kind of a, does actually indicate what it's all about. It's called a recover action. So when you do this, you can spend your energy to recover your shields up to the fall 4. So you can't go above your 4. So if I had been hit for 1, I could spend my 1 energy token in a recover action and get my shields back up to full. Okay, the next one that looks like a kind of a dial or a dart is actually reinforce, and it allows your card to reinforce either your aft or front, your rear or front, so your aft or fore part of your ship. So you have to define one part of that large giant ship you've got there, and it adds a dodge to that part of the ship. So if somebody hits the other part of the ship, it doesn't have any benefit, but it certainly allows you to, if you've got somebody coming at you in a direction you know is going to cause you harm, you can then use the reinforce action. The next one along looks like a kind of asteroid ship kind of in a game. It's actually coordinate. and coordinate is actually where you will help a friendly ship in range 1 or 2, and you're able to in effect give them a free action, which I think is really good. So you've got escorts that you're not bumping into. I think that's going to be really helpful. And the far right one that looks like a bit of a heartbeat is called Jam. And it's a little bit like coordinate. It's a little bit backwards, but it's for you trying to give stress tokens, and you can give up to 1 or 2 stress tokens. So any enemy in the range of 1 or 2, you can use the jam action to force their pilots into a kind of stressful situation. Okay, so there, as you can see, a little bit close up of the lightsaber icon. There's that epic icon, and these are the new kind of features. Okay, as you can see, it's a really well loaded card. You've also got these new cargo type tokens on the right. So there's 3 cargo cards, as well as 2 visiting dignitaries, depending on how you like to call these guys and girls that are sometimes aboard your ship. So there's a good look at the card, and what we're going to now do is go through some of those specials. Okay, we're now going to go through all of the cards for the GR-75. You get 1 modification card. It's very expensive at 10 points, but it does give your ship an increased hull of 2 and an increase to your shields of 1, giving you a 10-5. So a very heavily armoured upgrade. Good combat refit, but 10 points. Now these title cards are a little bit more interesting. There's 3 of them in total, especially the Quantum Storm. So this signifies how much additional energy your GR-75 can handle. So stock it has up to 4, and Bright Hope gives you up to another 2, Quantum Storm another 1. What I particularly like about Quantum Storm is at the start of your end phase, if you have 1 or few energy tokens, you gain 1 energy token. So that means you're not going to run out of energy, which is particularly nice, especially if you're really hacking across the board and doing a fast-paced race to escape. And you certainly need the energy to allow this ship to survive and to help its escort survive. Duty free, no actual extra energy, but it allows you to enhance one of the card features, the Jam feature, where you can choose an enemy up to range 1 to 3 rather than just 1 to 2. So that really does again give you a bonus for those TIE fighters and anybody trying to snipe at you from afar. Bright Hope, fantastic one. Reinforced token assigned to your force section adds 2, now I call these jink, but these dodge results instead of 1. So there's a good defensive kind of front 4 section going on there. Now we're also going to go through the damage card decks later, but we want to first of all do the dignitaries, I'm going to call them, rather than, I don't think they're mercenaries. Dignitaries, guests aboard your ship, and the all-important cargo decks that goes with these cards, and they're really quite interesting. So I'm going to swipe all this away. And we're going to do Hollister Recon. Now, huge ship, rebel only, and these 3 are all huge ship, rebel only, and the droid is a huge ship only. So that's obviously got an option for maybe an Imperial huge ship sometime later in the future. Let's see what they're planning. So this is a single use only, but boy is it good. So at the start of your activation phase, you may discard this card to treat each friendly ship's pilot skills as 12 until the end of that phase. So all your pilots become 12 for a round. Now that could be incredible, could be a make or break in a battle. So although it's a 1 use only card, 3 points, very good. This has got to be one of my favourites. So when another friendly ship at range 1 is attacking, it may change one of its hit results to a critical hit result. So you're really going to help your escorts along with damaging and shooting off those attacking TIEs. Touring far, you spend any amount of energy to choose that many enemy ships at range 1 to 2, remove all focus, evade and blue target lock tokens from those ships. Really going to make them an easier target for your escorts to take off. So again, some really quite interesting cards, but they're 6 points apiece. So these really are, obviously it's just not just the personality, but it's the feature that's being activated in that GR-75. That really is what you're paying for there, but some fantastic options. And last but not least, and this droid's going to give R2-D2 a run for his money. So Wed 15, the repair droid, this is the guy that you first see in the Empire Strikes Back 5th movie. So it's all very into the canon of this particular set and this figure box. So spend 1 energy to discard one of your face down damage cards, or 3 energy to discard one of your face up damage cards. So this guy really is going to take away a lot of that critical damage and those damage systems and get your ship up and running again. Okay, you get 9 cargo pod cards, and I've grouped them so that the top 5 here are all the limited ones, so you can only have one of each type. So it isn't that you can only have one limited card, you can have multiple limited cards up to the 3 that the ship lets you have, but you can only have, for example, one of the Tabana gas supplies. And then I've also got the energy, and there's an action card, and then you've got 2 standard cards, but this is the only GR-75 only. So although they're all cargo, so any ships that work cargo, again, this is going to give you a flavour for the fact that there's going to be more ships with this cargo icon on board. Okay, so Tabana gas supplies is basically a once-use battery, so you may discard this card to gain 3 energy. That could be really fantastic if you're struggling to keep yourself in some energy and you need to do an essential system. Backup shield generator. At the end of each round, you may spend 1 energy to recover 1 shield. Now that, I think, is going to be essential. I think one of my 3 cargo pods will always be this one. EM emitter, when you obstruct an attack, excuse me, I'd love to destruct the attack. The defender rolls 3 additional defense dice instead of 1. That's going to be quite good. Engine boost, this is quite good. So again, immediately before you reveal your maneuver dial, you may spend 1 energy to execute a white single 1 extra move. So you really can get to move quite a far distance on the board here. So just these 2 in combination, you basically got yourself a free additional maneuver. Frequency jam enhances the jamming features already there, so when you perform a jam action, choose 1 enemy ship that does not have a stress token and is at range 1 of the jammed ship. The chosen ship receives 1 stress token, so you're going to stress out the enemy there. Comms boost, NG spend 1 NG to remove all stress tokens from a friendly ship at range 1 to 3, then assign 1 focus token to that ship. That's another awesome card. 4 points, I think that's going to be worth having that one. And here's another one, this is really expensive, but wait till you read this one, the slicer tools. Choose 1 or more, so it's 1 or more enemy ships at range 1 to 3 that have a stress token. For each ship chosen, you may spend 1 energy to cause that ship to suffer 1 damage. So you're going to turn stress to damage. Now, with all your jamming and all your frequency jammers, and if you've got yourself a good battery reserve going on here, so let's say you've got yourself the Bright Hope card on your ship, so you've already got the ability to have up to 6, and you've built up a bit of energy because you've been driving at, let's say, 2s and 3s, so your energy wheel's been giving you some top-up power. So as you can see, if you're only going 2 straight forward, you're going to get yourself 2 energy a turn. After a few turns, you're going to be in a pretty awesome situation where you've got yourself a nice stock up, 6 in the case in the scenario I'm talking about, and then you can start using this slicer tool really effectively. So you're going to be able to once you get to the point where you can cause stress tokens on ships, you're going to be able to damage them. That really makes an offensive rebel transport, stops being a transport, almost starts becoming a bit of a capital ship. Really impressive, some of these cards. Obviously it's going to cost a load, so don't think you can get this for cheap, but with a base 30-point ship and another 20 points on some really good cards and mercenaries, you've got yourself an amazing ship here. Shield projector, this is basically turning you into a bit of a battery, an absorbing battery. So if you have also got yourself in a situation where you can repair yourself well, whether that be because of the repair droid or because you're fixing yourself 1 a turn, then you of course could utilize that with the shield projectors. When an enemy ship becomes the active ship during the combat phase, you may spend 3 energy to force that ship to attack you, if it's possible, until the end of the phase, so you could become the soak to protect your escorts. And the expanded cargo hold, this is the only GR-75 card that's exclusive to this card. So once per round, when you would be dealt a face-up damage card, you may draw that card from either of the fore or the aft damage deck. So I guess if you're slowly exploding, they've been hitting your rear quite a lot, and you want to protect yourself, it's a little bit like sacrificing one of the cargo pods in one part of your ship. So it's quite an interesting one. It's very, very cheap, and could be another way of utilising a way of surviving damage to the rear part of your ship. So it's a cheap one. I think if you're in a low cost, low budget game, that could be a very good way of being able to do a run and run kind of scenario where you can really leg it across the board and just take all the hits to the rear, knowing that you can control a little bit of the critical damage going on. Okay, before we start on the actual damage decks, let's just talk about how an enemy ship is going to actually hit either the forward or the back part of the ship. So it's a line of sight rule, so of course the TIE fighter can shoot the transport. It's certainly within its arc, and although the distance is done as normal between base and base, the actual line of sight rule for this is simply this. So if a TIE fighter wants to shoot the back part of the ship, you draw a line from the center point of the ship to the center point of the base at the back that they want to target. And if that line crosses the blue line, like it does here, sorry buddy, that TIE fighter cannot shoot the rear. It has to shoot the front because it doesn't cross the blue line. So it really is just to allow and manage the actual targeting of the bases. There are a couple of other special rules regarding targeting, depending on what kind of damage is being done. So if a damage card would affect both sections of a GR-75, the opposing player chooses the section that suffers the damage, and again, if the GR-75 suffers damage from a source that does not explicitly affect a single section, then the opposing player chooses which section suffers the damage. So apart from the main shooting, you don't really lose out as the attacker against this big ship, but your main dogfight, ships, shooting, etc. really need to be aware of this line of sight arc, and it's not just as simple as getting a firing arc on the ship. Okay, let's look at the fore or front of the ship damage first of all. So you've got 4 of these direct hit cards where a card counts as 2 damage against your hull. You've got 2 of these damage stabilizer cards where if you execute a maneuver where you're turning left or right, you suffer 1 damage, and if you draw a damage card, draw it from the 4 damage deck. Action: roll 1 attack dice. On a hit result, flip this card to face down, so you can, as an action, mitigate this to sort your stabilizers, a bit like a quick and dirty in the field repair. Now, one of the nastiest cards in here is actually this one, I think, because if you have geared up your GR-75 as a jamming ship, then this card is going to be the one that the bad guys are going to want to get for. So you cannot perform the jam action. Action: roll 1 attack die. On a hit result, flip this card face down, so you can get rid of it. But that is the one that's going to stop your ship being able to jam until you complete this good luck action roll. So that's a really interesting one. Hull breach: ship, place 1 of your upgrade cards under this card. You cannot use that upgrade card while this card is face up. Spend 2 energy to flip this card face down. Now, because you can spend energy to turn this face down, that's not so bad. You're not having to have the luck of the dice roll on this one. This one you can actually manage. But again, some of your upgrade cards might be what makes your ship kind of uber or special in the combat. So that's another interesting one. And you've also got this secondary drive failure ship. You must spend 1 energy to perform any action. So this is just going to, hurt you in terms of energy. So you've got to... Okay, now we have the aft or rear deck, and some very interesting ones in here as well. So let's start with the multiple ones. So you've got 3 reactor leaks. When you execute a maneuver, reduce the amount of energy you gain by 1 to a minimum of 0. So that's going to really draw and suck out your power. Engine damage. This is really interesting because it's cumulative and it's the number of cards in play. So when you execute a maneuver, if the speed of that maneuver plus the number of face of engine damage cards, this card, you have equal or exceeds 5, you must skip your perform action step this round. So basically that's going to really slow you down, because the more engine damage cards you have, the slower you only risk going slower. So that's really going to slow you down. It's a really nice feel, especially as it's on the back of the ship. Reactor cowl rupture. When you perform a recover action, you cannot recover more than 2 shields. You must still spend all your energy. So it doesn't completely stop your energy repair, but it certainly costs you more energy than you would normally. Projector power failure. You cannot perform the reinforce action unless you have at least 3 energy. So if you were using your ship to defend your escort, you're going to be costing a lot of energy, and of course the energy only comes from you going slowly unless you've got some other cards that give you extra energy. So that's going to be quite a difficult one to live with long term. You don't want to get that early in the game, that's for sure. And this is quite nasty as well. So command pod casualties. Now obviously the command pod on the rebel transport is on the back, so it makes sense that this is part of the aft damage deck. Assign 1 stress token to 1 friendly small or large ship. So that's you picking one of your ships and assigning a stress token. Then your opponent may assign 1 stress token to one of your small or large ships. Then you flip the card down. So although it's only a one-off card, you send out a pulse or some destructive message or whatever, but you cause a stress token one of your ships that you choose, and then the other guy gets to choose a ship. So that could really completely really ruin a maneuver that's going to be planned, or a critical dodge that's going on. So that's certainly one I wouldn't want to have if we're in a close scrap. Okay, a couple of last points. The scale. So it's close, but it's not perfect. So obviously the X-Wing pilot, when you see Luke getting in and out of that, there's a lot of room around the edges, so it's quite a spacey cockpit. And obviously the Millennium Falcon, you've got a comfortable space here for at least 4 people sitting down, so that's quite a big cockpit really. But this little compartment on the back here is meant to be where the pilot or pilots are, and it's close, it's good, it's not off-putting at all. But I think the Rebel Transport is a little bit small for what it's really meant to be in quotes real life. But it's not far off. Not so much that you're going to think, what's that small ship doing on the board? I think you're going to think it's a really sizable, good, credible ship, and I think the scales still holds true in the game, so no concerns there. So obviously it's an interesting ship to play. It's very expensive if you want it to be quote good, other than just a heavily armoured transport. Obviously you've got no attack. No, I shouldn't say that. You've got no guns, let's say, and as you see by the card, you can certainly do some damage by ramming or otherwise. But it's very much a game of energy management, and I think that brings a whole new aspect to this game. You actually got to charge up energy cells and use them in whatever way you can. You get a couple of the phases in the actual turn, so you've got an energy phase basically, so that is a whole new ruling. And you've also got to get used to a new time sequence through the actual game. So every small and large ship will have the activation phase before the GR-75. So you've just got to get used to being, well, you've got to get used to being last basically. But you've got some quite fancy things you can do with it. So certainly it's, you've got to decide as the enemy attacking this, what your approach is going to be as well. Are you going to just go hell for leather whilst your fleet is fully functional and take down that transport, or are you going to try and take out the escort? Now, okay, the point system's being fair. It's not going to be a fantastic escort, because this 30-40 point ship, if you've got a bit of crew and a bit of cargo pods to give it some chance, is going to be an expensive card to play. So it's certainly going to be up against a larger number of ships from the enemy. So it's an interesting one. It certainly is going to be a deciding force for these guys, whether to go for the escorts, take them off first, and then take easy pickings on the transport. But it's really one for you to decide on that one. Okay, I hope that this video has helped with your purchasing decision. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to like, subscribe and comment.